from the first cells to develop on this planet, to the birds of the rainforest, or the pumas in South America. Reproduction allows life to change and adapt to its surroundings. Humans are no different. Yet, since as far back as we have records, humans have been trying to separate the urge to reproduce from the natural result of creating a baby. In the modern age, we can now dictate our reproductive process, and for the first time, an organism on this planet is no longer bound to the hard code of their DNA. This revolution of birth control has had far-reaching implications, from women's role in society, the place of government in healthcare, and of course, how many babies are born each year. This video will explore the ancient origins of birth control, from Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages, and then take a look at the development of modern methods of birth control. In 1889, Sir William Flinders Petrie made an incredible discovery. At El Lahun, he found the Kahun Papyri. These were a collection of ancient Egyptian texts from 1825 BC, nearly 4,000 years old, which gave us the first insights on how the ancient Egyptians approached birth control and gynecologic problems. All of the medical treatments in this papyrus were how to create medicines or tinctures. The womb in particular was seen as the cause of their gynecologic problems, which would then manifest systemically throughout their body. Buried within this text, there are two methods of contraception. The first method recommends burning or sprinkling crocodile dung over the patient's womb. The other method recommends sprinkling honey and natron salt over the woman's womb to prevent pregnancy. These were the first recorded birth control methods in history, and although we don't have a randomized controlled trial to know its effectiveness, it shows us ancient peoples believed contraception was possible, and they were already experimenting with methods to control pregnancies. In the Bible, the book of Genesis describes a seemingly more effective contraceptive than crocodile dung. The brother of Onan, dies. At this time, Onan was commanded by his father to fulfill his duties as his husband's brother and marry his recently widowed wife. The children of their marriage would technically not be his, but would instead be considered his deceased brother's children. So Onan decided he would spill his seed on the ground whenever he went in, effectively practicing coitus interruptus, or the pulling out method. Because of this, his brother's wife never got pregnant, but this angered Yahweh, and Onan was put to death. Clearly, in the Bible, people were aware that semen entering a woman could cause pregnancy, and knew that pulling out could be effective in preventing it. The ancient Greeks and Romans had their own strategies to prevent pregnancies. A unique species of giant fennel, called silphium, was their contraceptive of choice. It only grew near the city of Cyrene in North Africa, and was used not only as a culinary herb, but also to prevent unwanted pregnancies. This plant, which grew in a small, narrow strip of land near the city, became so vital to the economy it was printed on their coins. Theophrastus, a Greek philosopher, described the herb as having thick roots, covered in black bark, around 50 centimeters long, with golden leaves. This herb became so sought after, it was eventually worth its weight in gold. It became extinct sometime in the 1st century AD due to over-cultivation. The last stalk was found and given to Emperor Nero as a curiosity. In fact, this is the first recorded extinction of a plant or animal species in recorded history, meaning when humans had written about them and then they went extinct. Whether silphium was as potent as the ancients made it seem, we will never know, as efforts to discover the plant or find close relatives have been unsuccessful. Skipping ahead in time to medieval Europe, the societal rules around contraception had changed. The Catholic Church, of course, deemed any attempts at birth control to be sinful. But, as we've seen so far, people will always try to control their own bodies and the timing of their births, so contraceptives were still sought after. Women used many methods, including pessaries made of lily root and rue, or the time-proven favorite of coitus interruptus. While humans showed a wide range of ingenuity around birth control, it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution and the rise of modern medicine when women could reliably count on birth control methods. In 1832, Dr. Knowlton published a small pamphlet called The Fruits of Philosophy. In Massachusetts, he would lend this pamphlet to patients on how to avoid getting pregnant. The opening chapter begins with showing how desirable it is, both in a political and a social point of view, for mankind to be able to limit, at will, the number of their offspring, without sacrificing the pleasure that attends the gratification of the reproductive instinct, and goes on to explain the Earth will not be able to support the current population growth without some sort of restraint on it. For 19th century Puritan New England, this was heady stuff, and for contraception, Dr. Knowlton recommended withdrawal immediately before emission, which he described as certainly effectual if practiced with sufficient care. He also recommended a sponge inserted before intercourse and then to pull it out after by a ribbon, taking all the semen with it. He said this method is not necessarily effective unless you can be sure to get all the semen out. But the one he recommended most highly after intercourse was a tincture involving zinc, alum, pearl ash, or any salt. Now this tincture was to be applied via a female syringe, which was available at any apothecary shop. Given the pamphlet's scandalous nature, it was found by authorities and subsequently outlawed. The court also sentenced Dr. Knowlton to 3 months of hard labor in Cambridge. In the late 19th century, as population was increasing exponentially, a few scholars in England started to promote birth control as a way to alleviate population pressure and poverty. These economic ideas merged with the nascent feminist thought to create the Malthusian League. Established in 1877, they went on to circulate Knowlton's The Fruit of Philosophy pamphlet. And, of course, they were immediately prosecuted by the government for the publication of the pamphlet, which ironically caused its printing and circulation to soar. The Malthusian League continued to pick up steam and opened one of the first birth control clinics in the world in 1921. This clinic advised women about the birth control strategies and offered cervical caps. These were the early seeds of birth control, which under the care of feminist leaders continued to spread the institution to more women in the early 20th century. Now let's switch back to America and talk about the founder of the modern birth control movement, Margaret Sanger, who is the first person in the United States to open a birth control clinic and later founded the American Birth Control League, which morphed into Planned Parenthood Federation of America. At this time, the distribution of contraception was effectively illegal in the United States because of the Comstock laws. And in 1936, Sanger decided to challenge these laws. She did so by ordering a box of diaphragms from Japan, which were subsequently confiscated by the US government. She then filed suit leading to the court case, United States versus one package of Japanese pessaries. The court ruled the Comstock Act should not interfere with the practice of medicine, and this opened the floodgates of doctors prescribing contraceptives to their patients, and just 1 year later, the American Medical Association adopted contraception as a normal medical service and implemented it in the curriculum of medical schools. But this industrious woman didn't stop there. In 1952, she teamed up with a philanthropist to fund the first birth control pill. Developed by Gregory Pincus, Enovid was the first birth control pill. It combined estrogen and progesterone to prevent ovulation and fertilization. Since the American laws at the time forbid any pills purely for contraceptive reasons, they were marketed at first for menstrual relief, with the side effect that a patient could not conceive while on the medication. Eventually, the FDA approved its use for contraception in 1960, and it was widely available in the United States. The medical keys unlocked the ability for widespread birth control, but the battle moved into the courts and the arena of public opinion. That battle continues today with the repeal of Roe and the subsequent effects it has had on the access to abortion in conservative states. The giants of birth control, both medical and cultural, should inspire us to keep fighting for access to these essential medications in our own time.